coming in. So, for example, if, let's just say, David, we're going to be next week, we'd have his budget this week, and we could take a look at it and then bring it home, and then we have questions that make sense, and they're answered then, and you're done with it.
What comes to mind is this entire budget process is going to go through 2 iterations. You know, everybody's going to come in for their first blush, and we're going to get that rough idea. The AABC is actually going to, they've been working directly with them to get it kind of clarified after they get at least our questions. And then maybe we could put those worksheets on the web easily.
Actually, you could put the budget once they fill in, because I can go through and fill it in.
Yes.
And if you add anything to it, I'm going to have to add, if anybody adds lines, I've got to add.
Understand.
So
we did that with police too. We haven't got to those guys yet.
Right.
Okay.
But we will be discussing it again. So
No, I understand, but I'm not, so I guess my question is, should I go to the next ABC meeting to raise this question when you're not talking about that budget at that point in time?
Yeah, I think the AABC folks and the selectmen are equally engaged in each department's budget. And the AABC more so in some areas. So I think, I've kind of communicated that to you guys. Does that seem, you get the output of the meeting that we work in, and you're already working with the department heads to try to nail that down, and then we get the numbers in, we get them.
Right, I mean, like I could put the numbers on of the 2 that are coming in next week. If you give me the MSG budget, as you've got it, I can put it on. I can put EMS, yes. So that's not a problem before the next meeting, and maybe we could put it on the
Yeah, we can get it out in an Excel.
Right, so maybe I will ask, I think it's Fire that's coming in this next week, and there's one other, who is it?
That's police.
Police is until the next week. You're coming in next week, right?
Yeah.
So those 2, so if they give it to me, I can put it on, we can put it on, so at least we could see it before that meeting.
Yeah.
If I could do it, will you have it by Thursday?
I'm actually working with Carol tomorrow morning.
Okay, because I know that Kim, I think, has got his stuff.
Terrific.
So
I like that as a sort of, it's not going to be perfect this year, but it gets better.
Yeah.
So if we could get them up early and collect questions from anywhere, then we as adults, I'll be able to address them when we have the department head at the table.
And David's going to be coming next week anyway, so you could probably ask him at the same time the questions that they have.
But just as it's helpful to you to have the budget beforehand to go through, it would be helpful to all of us to have the questions before the meeting so that we can think about where they're leading us and what, if any, additional information is required. The thing I hate about the budget hearings is somebody has a really good idea, but we can't put a price to it, consequence to it, and the meeting's over. Statutorily over. We're done. And we can do better than that.
So I like the idea. I think it's good. I think we can.
So that'll start next week?
As soon as he gives me his, I'll put it and I can take and I'll send it to Chris and you can put it on.
Yep.
And where would that go up?
It will go on Alstead.
Chronicle?
No, NH.org website.
And there'll be
Would you export that in Excel
Yeah,
like that, in your pocket, and then put it up there so I make a mess with it?
right. I'll do this in Excel.
Like you said to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay, and the question is that in this particular case, who would I go to? I don't want to bring it up tonight.
I think we can set up a mail to link and have Linda collect questions about the budget. We'll put some, I can put on the post. Please click here to email your questions or comments.
Right.
And please use the phrase EPW budget 2016 in the subject.
Yeah, that's perfect.
We'll figure it out.
And then I can even go in and check them and give them to him.
Well, yeah, because
Ahead of time. Then at the meeting, he would be all prepared.
You'll print them out.
The question.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
I like it.
Yeah, I think that's sort of awkward, but a terrific first step.
So,
You'll probably get better.
we have so.
More clean.
So, other news, questions, concerns, gratitude, ABC. Meeting on tomorrow night, 7 p.m. right here. And meeting every week until probably January. I bet they'll take Christmas week off, I sure hope so. Christmas is a Friday this year.
Yeah, it is. It is Friday. We've already looked.
I think we took all the turkey night off last year.
That's what it's called where you came from?
It's actually the biggest drinking day of the year. It surpassed New Year's Eve. It's the day before Thanksgiving.
Yes, it is. I agree with you.
Good thing for law
That's really
enforcement to
good.
know.
Good Friday that night.
Who would like to succinctly report on the meeting in Key last week about Silvio Conte's National Wildlife Sanctuary?
Well, both Chris and I were there, and Marge was there with Tim and some others, yes. It was a fairly well-attended. They did a presentation on part of the plan. They are choosing one of one of four plans. However, I don't like to be told that my only option is to choose between their plans. So I would say that personally, I'm planning to none of the above and do my own statements and supporting evidence. They gave out these little cards. Tips for submitting effective comments. You can comment up until November 16th or through, it ends November 16th, so. They want, explain your justification with sound reasoning and scientific evidence. Include the pros and cons and trade-offs of your position. Consider including examples of how the proposal would impact you positively or negatively. Whenever possible, support your comment with substantive data, facts, expert opinions, or personal experience, and I can do a lot of data and facts. The comment process is not a vote. No, it's a dictatorship. You understand that, any agency. One well-supported comment is often more influential than 1,000 form letters. And there's a website that you can make your comments through that. It's www.regulations.gov, docket number FWSR5 NWRS
That's a handy little handle there, isn't it?
Yes.
Could you bid me that for me?
I think what we could do.
It's on the website.
Yeah, I think we could put
And then
something on
there's-
our website.
Right, and then there's the mail, a hard copy if you don't like to use the computer. And there's going to be, of course, 4 hearings, I think, in early November. The one in Keene is November 5th for oral comments. And the Fish and Wildlife Service people who were at, and don't ask me the names, I'm terrible with remembering names, were very nice. They I was very pleased because I've been at meetings like this where you really do not have a say, but they were very open. They tried to answer the questions that were asked, and they listened to the comments, and they were very nice. So I was very pleased with the way they handled it. Some of the information that did come out, even though they were reluctant to say it, is that yes, they do have by law the ability to take by eminent domain, but it has never happened so far.
Yeah, that was actually a lie, because that department has taken land, so I researched it after the meeting.
Did you? Very
It's been
good.
a long time, but At first, she kind of danced around and
Yes.
pretended she didn't know that they had that power.
But then we pointed out what was in the foldouts that she
But
handed
it's
out.
in this too, and then it frequently asked questions. So, another point that came out that I think was very important is she said, oh yes, we will allow timber harvesting. But when she talked about it, she said that in fact, they were trying to get us some timber harvesting down at, I forget which place right now. But the only problem is their plans are so small, little spots, that it's economically unfeasible to get anyone to do the work. So really, timber harvesting? Not going to get done. Let's see, what else? Can you think of anything else, Chris? You were there.
Well, to me, the highlight was regarding RSA 121:6, which discusses
They didn't know about it.
how much land the federal government can procure within the state of New Hampshire, and the state of New Hampshire actually regulated this. They did it in 1935, so I'm guessing it was either in coordination with or as a result of, Civilian Conservation Corps or other New Deal programs, just a guess. But the long and the short of it was...
I think it was done because of the White Mountain National Forest.
Which was probably a result of a New Deal program. Okay. But the long and the short of it is the federal government is forbidden by New Hampshire law from possessing more than 2% of the state of New Hampshire.
Not counting
Minus.
White Mountain and the post offices and military bases and those kinds of things are not very included.
Right. What's the second part of that is they cannot possess more than 5% of a single town. Now this gets interesting because and there were more selectmen there than just myself. There was a gentleman from Richmond, there was a gentleman from Marlow, and I'm not sure there were others in the crowd too. But the gentleman from Marlow, based on their math, this first blush was 25% of the town of Marlow that they would like to acquire. So it vastly exceeded, what's allowed by New Hampshire RSA. I was going to ask you guys if you've done any research on, and I'm trying to pull it up here to get a grand total. What's the total acreage?
It's over 500 million acres. I looked it up
Oh,
online.
no. I mean, in the Alstead portion, how many acres?
I haven't done.
And that's the one we need to nail down. If that exceeds 1,200 acres, then it's a violation of, is it?
Homes, 5,000 acres.
Right. Tone is 5,000. I knew they were up to 3. They're now 5 because I knew they were required.
They obviously had no idea. They just looked at you blindly.
Well, they had no idea whatsoever. They were shocked when they heard
It
it.
goes in the survey.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think things have been done properly with all of these previous, possibly.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of unanswered questions. The other highlight for me was they talked about how much within the entire watershed has actually been conserved already. And for those of you who believe that I just come across as like anti-environment, total conserved within that area, I believe, is 1.8 million acres is in some form of conservancy or within the states affected. That might be it.
Yes, it was within all the states of the watershed, right? And in fact, I thought it was over 2 million.
I seem to remember
1.8 had stuff in my head.
1.8, that's right. But what I think was really good and what they failed to see my irony in was that somehow all this land has been put into some form of protection without the federal government coming in and saying, we
It's
will
true.
put this into...
NGOs, non-government organizations.
Well, it's also people putting their land into current use, people putting their land easements into conservancy, and all sorts of things like that that people just do voluntarily, that you don't always need, the heavy hand of government to make some people do the right thing. And I think that's important to keep in mind as we go through this process.
So did you find out if you can be opted out of that?
Their plan, you cannot be opted out of their plan.
Right.
What they have is the red lines drawn around, who they're focusing on at first. And what's interesting is, I was talking to someone about this, that the plan, the different choices, A, B, C, or D, like in one of the plans, snowmobilers are excluded, so that would mean the snowmobilers automatically won't vote for that plan. It seems that they target you into the plan they really want you to choose.
Yeah, they only came up with 4 because, well, the only reason they did the whole thing was because Congress passed a law telling all the refugees they have to do this. So, and that was the only reason. When they talked about reasons for it, they didn't talk about wildlife or conserving. They talked about Congress telling them they had to do this.
The plan, well, it's part of the plan.
And the plan requires 4 options.
So I have a question. Where it crosses the Gilson Line Road on the map there, would that mean there'd be no Gilson Line Road?
Well,
It goes up around Molesky,
You
so.
told me they weren't gonna close any.
no, there aren't going to be any roads closed initially. What happens is, eventually over time, this is a time thing. The government has all the time in the world, because it goes through generations. Through time, there will be less and less privately owned land within this area. And eventually, it'll come down to a few holdouts still having private property within the area. And then it's like, well, it isn't financially feasible to continue keeping the roads open and usable. And so it really, that's how it ends up working.
Now, as I understood it, it has to go to Concord, correct? If somebody wants to sell, their property has to be approved. And then it can come back
Yes,
to the town.
yes, and this is some stuff that others have found, Rock and I were talking about a little bit, where if a sale to the federal government comes up, then the New Hampshire Land and Land Board basically has to approve the sale, and a special hearing can be called, I think, by,
Supposed to be, according to RSA 121, there is supposed to be, the selectmen are supposed to be notified.
14 days before.
we
Right.
could, and then we have an option of holding a special hearing.
Right.
So there's some checks and balances in all this stuff. What I think the big thing is that every single one of their plans violates New Hampshire RSA, because I just did a quick scan and easily exceeded 2,000 acres of Alstead that they would like to do, and that violates 121:6. So
They were not even aware of that.
they weren't. They had the most baffled look. They looked at each other. They looked
They
for
looked
anybody else
very
who might have.
disturbed.
Yeah, and they had no idea that was the case.
So that means it's never been used.
But,
It's been illegally.
well, that's the question, and I think we can run that. We can run that question through them right now without having to wait for public hearing. I think it would be appropriate for a selectman to make contact with them and say, citizens have expressed concern. We're looking at this, and on its face, it appears to clearly violate New Hampshire state law.
Well, I'd be happy to sign that letter.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to write it, since you're up on the chapters and the colons and the verses.
I just happen to remember one, I'm so proud of myself.
We can remember the other one, 99A.
So I think that's the right step. We know who the boss is over all this stuff.
Yes, he wasn't, she was covering for another fellow who was out.
Right. But the big boss, and the grand
Right.
decision gets made by Wendy, I want to say Wendy or Williams, but that's not it. Wendy,
No, sorry, not it.
I can't remember.
So what interests me is,
Williams.
has the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests spoken on this? What about the Trust for Public Lands? I mean, there are
She,
huge entities out there with great resources and legal teams
Okay.
who must have an abiding interest in.
she said they work very well together with the easements. In fact, because I brought up the Quabbin to Cardigan and how it overlapped some. And she said, oh yes, that's mostly being done by conservation easements, and we work very well together.
I don't think that was the answer to my question, and so I'll take it upon myself to try to find out.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Whatever you think about the Society for the Protection of the Hampshire Forest, they've been around a long time. They've got a lot of land under easement that they may or may not wish to give over under any circumstances. And I know, or I used to know pretty well, the CEO over there. That might help.
Well, you understand that in this plan, they have not targeted any property that is already under easement.
And that doesn't address my question either, so
No, I know it doesn't, but I'm just wanting to make you aware of that.
I hope that, I'm looking at this from 2 points of view. Number one, as our role to oversee what's the phrase again?
Improve the fares.
Improve the fares of the town and how those are affected. I have an interest because I'm a landowner around here, and I don't want mine to show up in phase 2 of this thing when it comes around. But I really hope, we can get some citizens involved outside of government, just amongst yourselves to get something together and
I'm working on that.
work on it. That would be great.
I just said to anybody that's called here your way.
What?
Anybody that calls here about it, I finally send it to you.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Yes, I'm putting
Probably
emails.
should have asked her before you did.
I know I should have, but she was.
She volunteered her husband last week.
That's right.
I've been putting emails out all over the state. Gradually they're getting out all over the state. I've told people to send them on. So you see, gradually it gets out to more and more people. Because I want more and more people to know, because unhappily the whole process, from what I can tell, usually does not involve enough people. And it doesn't involve people who aren't yet affected, who don't even know about what's going on. And then there are business organizations that are going to be very upset and concerned about this. Anything to do with the timber industry is highly affected.
So we have 2 action items.
The only thing is,
Chris is going to draft the letter that indicates that in our Holocaust legal opinion, we've got a sticking point. And I'm going to see if I can reach out to conservation organizations in my universe, see if they've offered any opinion about the suitability of this activity. And Mark is going to ask a question.
Space also.
One of the things that they stressed was that a lot of their decisions are handed down from Congress. And at the moment, it's willing seller only. They kind of stressed that. They were trying to push that. But any amount that is reimbursed to the towns is decided by Congress. And the use of the land, right now, it's open to hunting, fishing, photography, and bird watching were the 4 options. But as time progresses, if they find there's something in there that needs to be protected, they can change the use. And they will change the use.
The dwarf wedge mussel.
Yes, whatever.
if it goes against RSA, how can they even do that?
We're not here to answer that.
Yeah, this is Congress, this is the federal government.
Right. The other, going along with where you were going with that, they did throw out a number of reimbursements to the towns for lost taxation. And the number they threw out was 42 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
To start, but this year it was down to 25.
25.
25.
Then they tried to focus on this one story where one year, somewhere in northern Vermont, it was actually more than it would have been in private hands.
Yeah.
If that didn't last last very long. All you have to do is look at the aid for disabled children that was supposed to be 40% from the federal government, and the most we've ever gotten is 18.
Right.
The Mohegan Basin in Vermont, that's a good example of where they're gonna close. They're gonna go further to a different level and close it to snowmobiling and hunting and everything. It started out, they had it open, but now they're gonna.
Well, all of this is not a good thing, in my opinion, because, first of all, the state loses control of all of that land, as well as the individual and the town. But also, in the future, barring we only have 3 days' worth of food in this. Last I had talked to the fellow from the state who was involved in this, which was a few years ago, it might be even less now. Most food that's in the state is 3 days' worth of food at any one time. That was when I was somewhere in between 2011 and 2012 when I was at a meeting, and I ended up meeting him sitting at the same table, and we had that discussion. All it would take was one emergency, something happened that the food couldn't get distributed, and in 3 days it would be total chaos. So I don't think tying up all this land so it never can be trees cut down and turned into growing food is a good idea either, which of course is what would happen. I think that we need to keep the availability viable. That's one of the reasons that golf courses fit under current use, is because it's land that could be, if it was really needed in the future, could be used for other things.
Were they thinking about farming and growing up?
None of that, no. None of that is, I brought that up at the meeting, that there was no discussion of farming, agriculture, silviculture, all sorts of things, what is good for the human population. And that is, no, it's totally focused on humans, on our good. Wildlife is what we're interested in. So.
And this is not part of the Fish and Game. This is a totally separate organization created in 1994, and it's Fish and Game Wildlife Refuge, and that's
U.S. Fish and Wildlife Refuge, yes. And they talked about hunting and fishing, but then if you read in the literature, I can't tell you exactly which page, but in the area, I think of 4-4 through whatever, that hunting, although it's allowed, depending on what that area is decided to be used for, that people for hunting would be excluded, and so it's very iffy how much is open to hunting, all that.
So I think in summary, if this does concern you, or if you're totally in support of this, go to, just Google Silvio Oconte, look for the latest comprehensive plan, and you'll find out links where you can comment on those. And maybe we will get some sort of a post up on the Alstead NH.org website too. That'll point folks in the right direction.
Good. I think that's probably all we can do when we have more questions than answers. But I understand the urgency, because the comment period closes in 6 weeks, 8 weeks. The comment period.
That's right.
It's the one time when
And failure to
government
comment.
moves swiftly.
Failure to comment. Well, they're statutorily assigned. I mean, I bet the comment period for
There's northern New Hampshire.
pipeline on the Bakken Shale was exactly the same length. You know. What as she points out, what the weakness is that we don't district. You and me, I didn't write anybody about Keystone XL. But I had every right to, and I certainly had an opinion. So, I've got a few more agenda items.
So,
we'll keep this on here for next week.
You're not in it, we're not.
Okay.
Not yet.
But the plan is to preserve the entire watershed of the Connecticut River. So that's, if you look at the map, I don't have it with me, of the entire, from the ocean, the Atlantic all the way up to and into Canada a little bit. They plan on preserving that entire, both the Connecticut, and the other states, all the way up through. And then they also plan that eventually, because it will include the watershed of the Merrimack River also. So that all of that will be preserved.
So if we're ready to move along?
I think we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Heroin meeting.
Email back. You heard me go on about this before, and I went on and I finally got a commitment from a guy named Duff. Give you his full name for the minute, but he is the guy who works for the county who runs the drug court and their various mediation and remediation programs. And he's going to come out here, talk to us during a regularly scheduled selectmen's meeting on the 20th of October. We will publicize that, and people will bring their questions, and he will have heard all the questions before. But I've talked to him, he's quite sharp. And if you want to know more about where we are and where we could go, this is the guy to talk to at this level. And we're paying for him, so we might as well get something out of that, some direct increase in our community level of knowledge. So that's just an announcement. That wasn't a proposal. I just made that happen, and I hope somebody shows up besides me. And we'll keep this on the agenda for next week, because I'm sure we have more to say and more to do.
Have some kind of an update by the
Yeah. And we get this. I have, before we talk about oil and propane, and I'm interested in soliciting opinions about that. A couple of housekeeping items. We had a mutual aid agreement proposal from Charlestown, which disappeared into the vortex for a while. Then they finally pulled it out, sent it off to legal. Legal said, well, this looks great to us, but we don't actually do these things. You should look at paragraph 5 and send that to your liability carrier. And that was exactly my concern and Kim's concern when we went to the meeting all those months ago. I don't know about this. So Linda's done that. We'll get an opinion back from them that says, yeah, or are you crazy, which I think is what the answer will be. So there's that. I have a different kind of proposal that also needs legal review from the New Hampshire Public Works Mutual Aid Program. And it's got, 18 pages of whereases and stuff. And I need somebody to look over that and say, is this in the best interest of the town? I can't do that. I don't have the skills.
Okay.
So it's either going to go to, it'll start out at LGC and they'll say, well, we don't do this.
Right.
And then we'll have to decide if we want to pay $2.50 an hour to have it done, or just not sign it.
Right.
I think those are my choices. So.
I might ask David too, because we might have been in it.
We have been in it, and it has paid dividends for us, and as
Right.
near as I can tell, and David's the guy to check, we have never extended
Right.
formal, under this program, mutual aid services to an adjacent town. Now, we do it all the time, but we do it locally, which is my preferred method, but this is a wider scope. They're trying to address larger events, mostly snow disasters or long-term power outages. And I think it's a great program. I just can't evaluate all of this stuff that it says someone will be responsible for. It's not 18 pages, it's 14. We'll start with David, then go to LGC.
Yep.
I think that's good.
And then, I'm gonna address Jesse first.
You would?
Yeah.
Why?
He's come with appeal.
Well, why didn't he say so?
With appeal?
Appeal.
Oh, yeah,
Purchase
I
order.
do have a purchase order. But that's
We've
fine.
done that an hour.
I'm enjoying participating here.
Doesn't speak highly of your judgment. Rescue coats, triple trim, stethoscope pockets, Scotch Light Star Light, and letters. More letters. We talked about this earlier. $5,686.75 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units.
Five units and 3 helmets.
Bergeron protective clothing.
He was nice enough, this is a quote.
Epson image.
He was good enough to, when the fire department was fitting new members, he actually came down and fit my members at the other station. And actually brought the fun helmet so everybody could see what a $224 helmet looks like.
I would have picked a much larger number. That looks like smart shopping to me.
And this is what it replaces. So,
That seems to be more, better
I don't hear one. So, I'm only purchasing 3 of these for the time being to be kept on the truck. Eventually, I'd like everybody to have one, but those suits are pretty expensive, and Kim and I met and decided that for the time being, in the interest of everybody having protective apparel, we would purchase the suits for people that were not members of the fire department, did not have fire department issued turnout gear. I would like to issue it to everybody at some point, but I know that I can't do 3 times that this year. What's that?
Fair enough.
So, that being said, I still have 2 more beyond that I'll have to do, but that will just be coats and pants. And that will be probably a month and a half from now. So, these are the helmets. This is a pretty cool feature of these, is built-in, seal your face up, eye protection. Which these, yes.
Are those kept on the vehicles?
These will be kept on the vehicles.
So what are you gonna do with the ones that?
Well, I think I'm gonna give them to Glenn and put them on municipal bid because they're all broken. So I think.
Don't laugh, I've been on this bid, if you need 150 broken street lights, people bid on, it's amazing what people think they can get it out.
So if the deal gets approved and once the other 2 come in, we can place 3 broken blue hard hats on municipal bid, and I'm great with that.
So the others that you have are still usable, is that what you're saying?
You can't adjust the straps.
My question is, this is a broken one.
Right.
So this replaces that.
Yes.
You have more than 3 broken ones right now?
I only have 3 broken ones. I'm replacing with 3 good ones.
Okay.
Seems sensible enough to me. What's the D say? That's you.
He's got money in his budget.
Yeah, about 13,000 extra on the budget right now.
Yeah, so if he wants to. But do I need to recuse myself because one of these is for me?
No, I don't think so.
Right?
Yeah, let's check the spelling though.
That's the only reason I wanted to say the P-O-R-I-E-T. We're good.
Yeah. And those are 99, replace them like half.
So they still sell?
However, this doesn't meet any code,
no, it's obvious it doesn't.
other than being a hard hat.
You're good.
Something else?
Okay.
4?
Yes. And I don't know how I do this, but I have an application as well.
You usually let you guys, if it's a person that's already an EMT.
Yeah. I'm thinking it was good to go. I
If
go ahead and
everybody
hand
in
it in.
the department, you've always just let them, the department,
If the,
yeah.
well, it's a new board.
Yeah.
Historically, if the department said, we want that person to be a member, and the criminal records check came back fine, we said, go for it. Any reason, does anybody believe we should change that unwritten policy?
So they're just a member, or they have to be voted on by the membership?
the membership always going on?
You get to decide how you do it and how you bring it to us.
And I think,
And I think you gotta pay attention to how you used to do it, which sounds like a membership vote.
right,
But I'm not here to compel that. What I'm here to compel is the criminal records check.
Well, if they're already EMTs, we've had one more than once.
I will
You
pick
don't
up,
get a criminal record check just because you see the
so I will pick up the requisite paperwork in the
Yeah.
morning.
I'm here to compel the current criminal
Okay.
records check for people that we're sending into other people's houses in the middle of the night when everybody's screaming.
Criminal record.
Absolutely. Well, I'm great with that.
It's not
I
really.
would gladly do them yearly for my people if you felt so compelled.
I would not,
I-
because we
I
can't
mean,
spend money on this.
We could always, we could always write a really complicated policy, but I think the reason to do a follow-on criminal record check would be some suspicion that the status of that person had changed. Some event or action.
Reasoning got passed.
Well, that's a question that we haven't actually had answered.
No, actually, maybe to be on the thing, you'll have to have one, because when you're in the parking, you don't have to have that.
They've been around here.
What is it?
We don't know. We don't know his parents.
Where were you born?
Venezuela.
Somebody's scared about that, actually.
We're not here to have the birth certificate conversation. Let's talk about oil and propane. It's a two-part question here and everybody is expected to express an opinion if they have one. In this environment, in this economy, should we, as a community, be committing to buy energy at a particular price?
No.
What's the answer to that question? And then, if the answer is yes, how do you like 2.089 for oil and 1.579 for propane? 1.579, I only happen to know, is less than 40% of what I paid this month.
That's a pretty low.
And I suspect we can take one and not the other.
And the oil prices are quite a bit cheaper too, because I have checked locally and none of them are even near there.
So, for the sake of background, some years we do this, some years we don't. Usually we go in with the school because they're a big buyer, and that helps. Every year
This is the school.
we've done it, it's kind of worked out. The one year we didn't get our paperwork in time, it really worked out for us.
That's right.
But I don't know how to make these bets. Our track record is really good only because we've been lucky, not because we've been smart.
Well,
No.
I don't know that smart helps.
Somebody's making money on predicting what these prices are going to do, and it's not generally
No
us.
guarantees what these prices are going
They're
to
pretty low though, at this point.
I can't envision them.
Going any lower.
It would be something catastrophic, I would think.
They're gonna go
So
much lower.
you're getting those prices, you said, because you're bidding with the school?
The school bids too, they are getting propane and they're getting.
We can piggyback with them or not.
But they're not getting oil, because they've gone away from oil.
Sounds like maybe we should too.
Well, I don't think we're in a position to do a multiple building capital construct of wood chip boilers, which is what they did.
Wood chip or propane, Alstead is propane. Yeah, very good.
There's so much opposition to the Southern New Hampshire natural gas pipeline that I don't think that's actually ever going to happen. Too many people living in those 4 counties.
Mass didn't want it to
That's
that
what, yeah.
section, so they brought it up to our area. And we're not getting any line off of it.
I digress. We don't have to answer this question now, but by not answering the question, eventually we will have answered it.
Yes, because I don't know how many more times, so give me a second chance. I got one earlier and it was higher back when, usually August.
Let's try this another way. Is there anybody in the room who's pre-buying for this year? I didn't think so. I pre-bought some firewood. I bought some firewood futures.
Yeah, but at those prices,
Chris,
we got those prices? I'd like it.
What would be the savings from last year? What do you
Quite a
know?
bit, I think we were almost $3 last year.
But yeah, the only risk is you lock in at $2 and prices drop to $1.50, which
Right.
84 cents almost impossibly low.
$42 a barrel oil.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are analysts out there that said things go south, that could hit $20 a barrel.
Yes, there are.
So,
Analysts who are saying
I
that.
don't know,
don't
the analysts are wrong.
That's right, they can be very
Now, if
wrong.
we lock into that, and can we buy elsewhere if it does go
You
down?
won't get that price elsewhere.
Right, that's what I'm trying to say, is that
But it goes down.
If it goes down,
Can we go buy it somewhere else?
we might be able to if they got under that. Oh, no, we can't, we're locked into
They're
mine,
locked in.
up to a certain one. I think it's 6,000. I've gotten it down to 6,000
Right.
gallons because,
okay.
yeah.
You can't have your cake and eat it.
No, that's right.
That's right. We ran into that with the oil business, everybody was happy as long as it was going up. The minute it went down, oh, can I have my money back, oh, well, I'll get it someplace, yeah, so.
Because they are buying it
Yeah,
in
right,
anticipation.
right.
So if we base our decision based on other people's, in the room, self-interest, that is how people make the decision for their own households, the answer is no, with one exception.
Nobody's pre-buying.
What?
Because we don't have that price.
Because they don't have that price.
I think,
If somebody gave me that price, I think I personally would.
I'd
prefer it.
probably-
I would buy it at that price.
Oh, yeah.
If I was burning oil or gas, I would probably lock it in, but I burn oil.
What do you think,
I
Mark?
burn wood.
I would like to.
So let me spin the wheel one more time. Is there anybody in the room besides Mr. Q who's already made his recommendation, who would care to recommend a course of action to the Board of Selectmen regarding oil or propane at those numbers?
So we have to do both.
And nobody locally will touch that.
Not that price,
No.
Frank.
So I say, you pre-buy.
I recommend pre-buy.
Fair?
You for pre-buy?
Sure.
Good. I want to dissent, just so if it goes the other way, I can say I told you so.
Not a problem.
Passes 2-1. I like it.
Well, nobody believed Newt Gingrich when he said gas would go down to, what was it?
Yeah,
50?
I should recuse myself just
Ooh,
now.
I did too.
This one.
In places.
I got nothing to bring.
Every time oil goes up, has gone up and down, let's go on, before it happens, I learn months in advance that it's going to go down by people who have contacts with people in the know. And I'd always say, can that be true? Like when it was at 50 and it was going to go up to 150? I said, can that be true? Sure enough it was, then it was, it's going to go down to 50 again. Sure enough, that's exactly what it did. I just wish I had done the stock market with all of that information.
Do you still know these people?
Yes, on the
Yes,
internet.
and we need to talk to them.
So, I have no other agenda items except possible need for a non-public. Are there questions or answers or topics that the public would like to entertain at this moment? Otherwise, we will either adjourn or go into non-public as you gentlemen require. I don't actually have anything for non-public anymore.
Maybe not.
Let's give ourselves a break this week.
There you go.
Adjourn? Adjourn. Thank you very much. Good meeting.
I didn't say those things to say you should talk to those people. I was just adding about